Welcome, and thanks for joining with AIP, the American Institute of Pyramid Research. We study pyramids around the world, especially in Egypt, with the belief they hold special wisdom. Please subscribe to our channel as we uncover long-hidden secrets, explain sacred symbols, and demystify the world's greatest mysteries. Well, thanks for coming out to our channel. I want to continue looking at the air shafts of the Great Pyramid and how they could relate to a prophecy about a future crisis. So the first indication is that we've seen that these northern shafts coming out of the King's and Queen's chamber cross, and they don't have to. The designers could have done it different. Now, the cross, or the chiasmus in Greek, is the Greek word crisis, which means, like our English word, crisis. It can be a turning point or a judgment. So the crossing can symbolize that. That could be a reason here. It's pointing out to us, in symbol, hey, there's a crisis. And we talked about how the pointing to two different stars at two different times seemed, that could be something the designers were trying to tell us, but it seems like something else is called for. And Gary Osborn, in his book, The Giza Prophecy, suggests that Al-Nitak could be pointed to by both shafts. We know that the southern shaft of the King's chamber points to Al-Nitak, but Osborn suggests that also that southern shaft coming out of the Queen's chamber. Now, one way this could make sense is that often we're just told that the air shaft points to, the southern air shaft points to the constellation Orion. But it specifically points to the star Al-Nitak. And one thing about Al-Nitak, the figure of speech called the synecdoche is where you use the part for the whole. They say, give me a head count. There's, we don't want to count people's heads. We want to know how many people there are. The head is used to symbolize the whole person. And Al-Nitak, in its ancient meanings, is meant to refer to all of Orion. So Al-Nitak, even though it's only one star in Orion, is meant by, ancient translations to stand for the whole. So that's another reason that Al-Nitak could be the one pointed to there. Now, if there was a pole shift, is what we suggested last time, because that's what we think the two shafts pointing to the same star could indicate. W.B. Wright says, among the theories that have been brought forth to account for the phenomena of the Ice Age, there's not a single one which meets the facts of the case. So the concept of the Ice Ages, which is established in science as one of the most definite facts, serves also as a foundation for the theory of evolution, has no good explanation itself. Now, a lot of people are coming to the, asteroids hitting the Earth, but there's a lot of things that are not explained just by that. Why didn't the Ice Ages come to the coldest places on Earth? Why in temperate latitudes? Why in the remotest past into India and Brazil, for instance? What about location of cold beds? What about formation of mountains? So again, what caused the Ice Ages was that this airflow that was one of the big theories today, volcanic eruptions, cosmic or asteroid collisions, planetary flybys. That's a thought that Immanuel Velikovsky brought. Now, Velikovsky was brilliant. He was like a Da Vinci. His books, which were written in the 50s, Worlds in Collision, Earth in Upheaval, Ages in Chaos, really shook the academic world. And eventually people that sided with Velikovsky were removed from academia. As a matter of fact, when Worlds in Collision went to be published, Harlow Shapley from Harvard, without really fully reading the book, went to the publisher and got it stopped from publication, threatening that all kinds of textbooks wouldn't go to that publisher. So what was used to shut Velikovsky down was power. It wasn't overcoming his arguments, because he predicted many things before they happened. For instance, the electrical currents on Jupiter, the warm temperature that would be on Venus. And he did this by studying ancient history and then moving into archaeoastronomy. So here's Velikovsky.
The story persists too. The story persists among the Redskins. It persisted among the Mayas at the time when the continent was first conquered, the Mexico part of it.
So he talks about how the Mayans talked about these planetary collisions as real things, and he mentions people all around the globe that did. So again, looking toward answers to the explanation for the cross in the air shafts and the different times. Again, we've suggested there was an Earth pole shift. Okay, this could happen a couple ways. It could happen, if you can see from the picture here, you keep the same spin axis, but the continents move. So that's kind of, you know, a shifting of the continental shelf or whatever. Or you could just simply have the whole Earth turns and changes its tilt. Both would have the same kind of effects. And both were considered really impossible by astronomy in the time of Velikovsky. But Velikovsky said that there's evidence that this happened. And he went to accounts on Earth. He didn't just look at, you know, cosmogony. So again,
the story of human memory of catastrophes that took place in historical times, but strangely, despite the fact that they were described in so many sources, as if non-existent for the scientific world.
Okay, so, you know, that's such an important point. Velikovsky points out that it's in all these legends. It's in the legends, you know, from ancient Mesopotamia, from the Mayans. And so researchers just treat that, well, that's just mythical. But Velikovsky talked about the collective unconscious, that when those things happen, think about what the memory of people would be if there was a sudden pole shift and everything, you know, fell apart, collapsed, most of their family died, all that kind of thing. It'd be a scarred memory. And Velikovsky was a student of Freud. And Einstein ended up accepting his theory. So the fact that most people hadn't heard of Velikovsky is for the same reason that pharaohs used to, you know, X off the names of pharaohs before them on monuments. There was like a huge jealousy of Velikovsky. All the things that he talked about are now, you know, coming to fruition. So we talked about how while the Great Pyramid reveals these angles that we know exist in terms of the tilt of the Earth's axis and stuff, why would it give us things we already know? It was those revelations in the pyramid were meant for those of us who would come at a time where we know them, but it would seem to be predicting more. We talked about that. So Osborn, in the book I mentioned, the Giza prophecy, talks about Dr. Flavio Barbiero, who talks about a pole shift could happen from an asteroid impact, and he gives the physical evidence and the physics to show how it could be true. So a pole shift happened when Alnitak hit 39 degrees, you know, the angle coming out of the Queen's Chamber air shaft. And so, you know, Alnitak, this is where it shifted to. In other words, if those are both pointing to Alnitak at the same time, quote unquote, the only way that could happen is if the Great Pyramid is revealing things about the pole shift. Okay, so it could be revealing the time it happened. If those both pointed to Alnitak, both the King's Chamber and the Queen's Chamber air shafts, then it would be saying, you know, conflate these two times. Now, I'm still working on this, but I'm taking what Gary Osborn has said in the Giza prophecy. He quotes George F. Dodwell, and he talks about how he's gathered a ton of data on measurements of the Earth's tilt from a wide variety of ancient sources, sort of the way that Velikovsky did. And except Dodwell's, you know, the researcher now that's not been banned like Velikovsky has been. And he shows that the Earth's tilt was 26.5 degrees in historical times. Well, it's interesting that the Great Pyramid reveals both the 23.5 and that more ancient 26.5, because a line that goes directly from the center of the Queen's Chamber through the center of the King's Chamber, that's the one that's 23.5 degrees. But if you go to the floor of the Queen's Chamber and then the center of the King's Chamber, it's 26.5. So again, the Great Pyramid has the 26.5 degrees that Dodwell says he's got tremendous data to show that that's what the ancients said what the axis was. And so the practical effect of a pole shift, besides all the catastrophic effects it would change the position of all stars relative to the Earth. You know, thus the Great Pyramid pointing to Alnitak. So Al-Nitak moved from one part of the sky to another part of the sky right when the pole shift happened. And those air shafts point to that. That's what they're trying to tell us. So Osborn says that astronomical time moved from 3980 BC to 2345 BC in one chronological day, or in a short period of time, maybe in an hour. Maybe it took a week, I don't know. Osborn and Creighton say in the Giza prophecy there was a loss of precession time, quote, on the order of between 1350 and 1600 years. So Doug, and it's interesting, some more recent work by Doug Ettinger in a piece he wrote called The Enigma of the Giza Pyramids of Egypt. It's kind of another way of getting at the same thing. He points out how the angle in relationship to north of the three belt stars of Orion is 62 degrees from north. And he said it's amazing more people didn't use this fact to try and, condemn Bauval's Orion correlation theory, because the pyramids are currently at a 43 degrees from north alignment. And so that would be a way to say, hey, this Orion up above, as above, so below, that's not happening because it's 60 degrees. But what Ettinger shows is that there was a shift of the Giza soil. And he shows what the true north was in the past and what it is in the present, and he actually reconciles the Orion constellation orientation with the orientation on Giza based on elements that are in the geometry of Giza. So it's another way of saying that Giza is giving us a prophecy of a pole shift that took place, and so. To me, these are incredible. So, I've talked about the work of Ettinger and the work of Osborn and Creighton in the Giza prophecy. So I agree in principle with what they're doing. I haven't worked out for myself what I think the exact shift might be, and the further question of if the Great Pyramid is revealing that shift, shouldn't it be warning us of another one based on what we know about what the Great Pyramid's supposed to be, the Pillar of Enoch. Well, listen, if you're interested in these things, I'm putting together an adventurers tour for April. Getting ready to stick it out on the website, but, it's going to be looking more than a casual, tour of Egypt, kind of an in-depth tour of some of the things that I talk about on this channel. And then we're going to have a more traditional tour in November, because it's always fun to cruise down the Nile and see Egypt in all its glory from the past. Get our book, the Orion Correlation Theory, Enoch, and boy, it'd be nice if you could help support this channel on Patreon. The links are down below. Every little nickel helps. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned.